Welcome back to Flying Colors Behind the Curtains of Success. My name is Bastian Hart. I'm your host today, and I really look forward to this conversation with Mona Shair-Wloch. Hi, Mona. Good to see you.
Hi, good morning. Good to see you too.
Did you like the transition?
I did, and I love the music, so it puts you straight into a good mood.
Glad to hear that. Mona, before we jump into our conversation, I usually introduce my guests or my co-hosts. So let me quickly do that. You're founder and managing director of Keytwood Advance, as people can see in the name already. And you have clients in the private, public, education, and diplomatic sector. You're very passionate about helping people, which makes sense as a coach, to discover and develop their true potential through coaching, training, and consulting. You've created various workshops, trainings that surround leadership skills, soft skills, also for universities, I have to say, for public speaking, both for teams and individuals. And you basically use a variety of techniques and the latest research findings to make it fun, engaging, and definitely creative for the people who are joining these workshops. I'm sure you can tell me a bit more about that. But yeah, you have built quite this company by yourself. It has been on for a longer period of time now. How long has it been?
It's 14 years coming up.
14 years coming up. Congratulations.
LinkedIn is quite good at reminding you,
I can imagine, yeah. But yeah, maybe we can start a bit. I mean, I've introduced you, but what is Keytwood Advance? What is it all about?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me. And I think I'm person number 6, and I want to just congratulate you on this initiative. So I see maybe in a few years, if we talk again, you might be doing the same as ourselves at Keytwood Advance. So what is Keytwood Advance? In short, it's a coaching and training consultancy. And we have 2 target groups. So on one hand, we work with 10 European universities, and we help the students there in the school to work transition, mainly at a master's level, but we also work with doctoral schools and bachelor's students. And there we offer everything from the basic career toolkits to how to enter certain sectors, and then employability skills, one-on-one coaching, internship opportunities, but also networking events. So that's kind of the package there. And then everything else is on the other side. So it could be, as you mentioned, the diplomatic sector, but international organizations, corporations, and there it varies from hospitality to pharma to fashion. You name it. Right. And for us, it doesn't really matter what the sector is, as long as people come to us with a wish to develop. And that could be developing a team, either to grow together or developing their skills, like you said, public speaking. Now, last year, I would say enhancing resilience is one of the hot topics. So we grow with our clients. So we see what do they need, and then we develop, as you said, workshops, look at what is the latest research and make sure it's fun and engaging and really adds value.
You mentioned, I mean, it sounds as if you have tons of different clients. That is fantastic. The student side of it, are the students coming from any particular field, or is it also they're very broad?
Yeah, I guess giving your viewership, right? It's people who are students and young professionals. So I think we could steer more in that direction. Our students, basically, the majority of them, I would say, are studying international affairs, international law, so more like the political sciences, because that's also where I did my master's, and that's how the whole story started, which we can get to later. And then if we look at the doctoral schools, there we have basically students who do everything from engineering to social studies to mathematics. So there it's really more career development on that stage. But on the master's level, I would say political sciences.
And what kind of toolkits do you give them? You mentioned the toolkits.
So one thing we realized is when we talk about students wanting to be lucky, a lot of students say, oh, but I'm not lucky. And then at one point we thought, okay, what does luck actually mean in the context of being a student? And then there's this one quote that I loved, and that really fits kind of our definition and our approach. It says, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So then we say, well, then let's help them prepare by offering the right kind of workshops, allowing them to self-reflect. So the first workshop we always offer is, what is my dream job and how to get it? And I think you and me had a conversation about this a few months ago. And then based on that, we say, okay, now you need to prepare yourself. Does your CV reflect your interest and your skills? How about your cover letters? Do you tailor it to make sure that it's a conversation? How about interview skills? Are you good at career storytelling? So the basic career toolkit is really that basic preparation. And then because we have students who want to work in the international or European institutions, we offer a variety of workshops around how to enter certain sectors. So it could be how to enter the European institutions, the Parliament Commission. Then we have, for example, NATO and SHAPE, or we would have people who are more interested in the field of migration or human rights, the field of communications, then of course the United Nations and international organizations. So we have specialized workshops for each one of these. And then on top of it, because unfortunately there's a lot of competition, right, in this sector,
For sure, yeah.
and not a lot of opportunities, especially for certain types of jobs. So then we added on top of it a third layer, which are called employability skills, which means how can you make yourself attractive to your future employer? And that could be workshops ranging from cybersecurity to nonviolent communication, negotiation workshops, public speaking, you name it. So we have a broad variety. Basically, what we offer in corporate or to our non-academic clients, we've created shorter workshops for our student communities.
We actually met in that world, right? We met at the European Academy of Diplomacy. You led a workshop, and I was fascinated about how you conducted it. And that's why I wanted to approach you. I wanted to learn more about it. And yeah, a couple of months ago, you helped me by finding my dream job, kind of, which is an endeavor, I would say. But I can see, have you found your dream job with what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. And honestly, like every single day I wake up and I'm so thankful that I am in the place that I am. And I think if you are a career advisor, you need to be in that space, because if you're not happy and then you want to advise other students, it's not authentic. And it's like going to a fitness coach who basically spent the last 5 months on their sofa. That doesn't work, right, for credibility. So when I stand in front of students and I want to encourage them to make informed decisions, go out there, prepare, find out what are the opportunities, discover themselves. It's also because I know how it feels to be in a place where I was totally miserable just like 16 years ago. And then the transformation and how beautiful it is when you are in a field that, just works with your strengths and your interests and your values. So no, definitely living and working the dream on the professional side.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. What was your path towards that? What was how did it all start with the coaching?
Oh yeah, well, let me first start by saying that my path doesn't have to be the path of others. And
very good point.
If people are listening to this, and I would say if something resonates from what I say, then that probably means there's something inside you that wanted to hear that, and that's what I would follow. So that's just something I wanted to say right off the bat. My path. So I'm half German, half Jordanian, and grew up in the Middle East until I was 18. And I think I always, if I had to think back, when was the first time I realized what I really want to do? I wanted to become a doctor, because back then it was only become a doctor or like a pharmacist, or you go into engineering or business. Like they weren't, now you have a million different kinds of paths you could go. But I think during my generation and what I was exposed to, it was more limited in terms of options. So then I said, well, let me become a doctor. I want to help people. So I think I realized quite early on that I love working with people and helping them. And then going to Canada, I studied, I ended up doing psychology and minored in business, kind of as a pre-med. But then I realized, I said, no, Mona, I don't think walking around as a doctor in hospitals is the way for you. And so I think sometimes when you're at the beginning of your path, and I'm saying the story having in mind that people might be listening who are struggling themselves, I kept hitting points where I'm like, but this is not it. Like I would volunteer in hospitals for 3 years. Every Sunday morning, I'd wake up, I'd go there, and I realized I was like, no, something's missing. This is not it. But I never really knew what it was. And then I studied psychology, and I thought, yeah, but I don't want to become a clinical psychologist either. And so I think one way is to not give up and to say, I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep finding what is my true passion. What do I really enjoy? And then I did a master's in international relations because I thought with my background, maybe I want to help solve conflicts in the Middle East. That's what I tend to say. Mm-hmm. And that path led me to the European Commission, where I did an internship or a traineeship in external relations to the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, I remember feeling so extremely guilty after just 3 days there, because my application was selected amongst many others. If you're out there and you've applied to the Blue Book or you want to apply, you know how competitive it is. I think now about 20,000 people apply for about 600-700 positions. It's crazy, yeah. So and then of course external relations is like the hot place to be. And I remember walking around and thinking, I took someone else the spot who might have been more excited about this. And then I think I hit a small crisis. And during one of my lunch breaks, this is kind of a turning moment for me. I took a very, very long lunch break. So everyone who worked with me back then, yes, I sometimes would disappear for a longer period of time. And I found this shop that was selling like jewelry and like cut stones and crystals. And I always had this creative side. So I came back and I started making a bracelet during working hours. And long story short, at the end of those 5 months, I had my own little business. So a little bit like you, in flying colors on the side. So I was like selling jewelry to the secretaries in the commission. Then I started, going to my desk officers and selling. And then I thought, okay, Mona, maybe you're a bit more of an entrepreneur. So I think it's about, discovering who you are, discovering what you're good at. And then I thought, okay, how can I use this drive and that skill set, but then focus more on not just hiding in my kitchen and making jewelry for 15 hours, but bringing that to people. And then long story short, someone told me about coaching. I found out about it, went to see a seminar, and immediately knew, okay, this is it. I remember sitting the whole time with like goosebumps, and I thought, okay, finally I have found what I can do. And I never looked back. So did a coaching training, neuro-linguistic programming at the time. Then I went back to my university where I did my master's, and I said, you need a career advisor. And then they said, okay, Mona, and here's Alistair Ross, if he ever hears this, he was one of my first mentors. And he said, I don't want to hire Mona, I want to hire a company, because one day you might have people working with you. And I was like inside laughing, thinking, okay, I can barely pay my bills, no? And then he gave me 2 days to come up with a name, and that's where Key to Advance was born. So I think you say you want to give people the key to success in a way. And I thought, oh, that's maybe a bit, or behind the curtains of success. I think I was too worried about the word success, thinking, I can't guarantee that, but I can help advance people. So yeah, that's basically how the story started.
Very good point with success. I really thought about it as well. Like, should I use that term? Because it's very difficult to define. Everyone has a different definition, and it's like a buzzword. So advance actually, or like a key to advance, would have made it more sense, I guess.
Sorry, the name is taken. We have a patent all over Europe. No, in the end, of course, people do want to strive towards success. And I think at this stage, I might want to say also that, had I not had a supportive, family and environment, I probably, might not have been as courageous and would have said, okay, now I'm going to become self-employed at the age of 26. So that's one other thing that I understand, that if people say, oh, I also want to become self-employed, it's nice if you also have a supportive network, supportive background, people who believe in you. So yeah, that's just something I think my family is listening in today. So just
greetings.
That. Yeah, exactly.
But you said there, you did a couple of different things, and you said, well, this is not it. Just to bring it on the point there, like, what is it actually that you were missing at these experiences? And didn't they actually then bring you to the point where you realized this is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we work with a lot of students. We secure internships too. And we say, look, if you realize after 3 days, like I did, that this is not the right place, still stick to it. I mean, if you have a 3-month commitment, a 5-month commitment, a 6-month commitment, go through it, because who knows, you might discover things about yourself. And So I don't tell people like, if you don't like something, just throw it out and go to the next. So like not to be that volatile in your decisions, but it's really to enter a stage of reflection and go, okay, what am I actually missing? And now that we're certified coaches, we develop workshops, now I can look back and go, I was maybe too extrovert for this, or I'm not a detailed person and I didn't want to like formatting documents, but I liked having more big picture and coming up with creative ideas, which was not possible at the time at the European Commission in the type of work that I was doing. So I think if I had to look back, it would be just this feeling of I'm not using my full potential. And that's what I think your show is also about too, with Flying Colors. It's finding out what is someone's potential. And usually you realize it when you enter a state of flow, when you lose your sense of time, you're enjoying what you're doing, you feel the skills are matching the challenge that you have. And when you reach that stage, go ahead with it and try to stick with it and go, oh, wow, okay, what skills am I using and what am I actually enjoying here? And when time is dragging on and you look at the hour at the clock like every few minutes, then you know you're not in a state of flow. And that's probably how I felt in some of the internships and jobs that I had before. And then I remember thinking, I'm too young not to like what I do. I remember like repeating this job and like, I'm 25. I shouldn't be depressed about the job I have. I should love what I'm doing actually. So maybe it's that.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you said a couple of things that are correct. You know how my career path has been as well. I've been in jobs where I also said I didn't really enjoy them. I didn't fit in there. But it's very important to still see a couple of things through, because I think these kind of experiences are exactly, when you turn it around, you usually focus on the negative part. It's like, I hate this. I don't like doing this. But this is exactly the world or the universe telling you, well, if you don't like this is probably leading to the opposite. So what is it that you like actually doing? What is it that you don't like? What is it that you like doing? And then you can kind of create a list, as we did once together, to find out what kind of job might actually fit to this list, to this positivity list.
Can I jump in there?
I think sure.
So if you look at kind of the psychology of motivation, you have two drivers. So you have the away drivers and then you have the towards drivers. And away means everything I don't want, right? So I don't want to be stuck in an office. I don't want to be doing formatting work. I don't want to be alone all day. I don't want. And oftentimes when you're doing these internships or jobs, you realize everything that you don't want. But then the question is, okay, if I turn around, what is it that I actually do want to do? And so I would say use the energy of the away drivers to propel you towards the towards. And I think the methodology we use, Bastian, you and me, and one that we use in all our workshops is based on a book called What Color is My Parachute? So it's it's been around for a few years, but still very valid in terms of the questions it asks. And I can share with you those 8 things. So if someone's listening in, reflect on what are your skills? What do you enjoy doing? Okay, so is it reading? Is it managing? Is it organizing? What are the things you enjoy doing? Then what are your fields of interest? What is something that you would spend your private time in? You'd go on vacation and take a book with you on it. Those are your interests. Then based on that, what are your values? So why are these interests your values? So if you say human rights, why? Is it your right for equality or equal access to education? Or what is the value behind your interest? Because those are your drivers in life. And then you can ask other questions that are also important, like what are my working conditions? Am I more of a freelancer? Do I need a certain structure? Do I like working in a large organization, a small organization? So working conditions. Another one is people. What kind of people do I want to have around me? And, in terms of internationality, in terms of background, in terms of interests, in terms of working style. So, what type of people? And then, of course, the last factors are geography. Where do I want to live? Because you're not just working, you also have a life beyond that. And then the last 2 factors would be salary and level of responsibility. So it seems quite extensive, but if you're able to sit down and to reflect on those 8 factors and really make a list and then prioritize them, this is what we call as the dream job compass. And it will help you make the right choices because it is a jungle out there for young people. I mean, you can do anything, right?
But if you have it now on a paper and you kind of know what skills you like, how does it actually then how is it put into practice? I think that was, for me, for example, the biggest challenge, to put it into practice, because I looked at the job opening, was like, well, could be it, could be not it, not so sure.
Yeah, well, it's just a compass, right? So you
Yeah.
still but with a compass, what we say is within each sector, try to prioritize. So if you have your fields of interest, then ask yourself, what's my number one field of interest? What's my number two field of interest? Because then the compass becomes more accurate. Same thing with your values. You might have 10 values, but if you had to prioritize them, what is your top driver? Okay. Same thing with skills. You say, oh, I like research, but I also like working with people and managing projects. Yeah, but which one is more than the others? And so the first step after you've written it all down is to kind of prioritize. And then what we advise at Key to Advance with our career advisors is to say, make a list of 10 jobs that could match this job description. So basically you have a job description, but then what are the 10 different jobs that reflect this type of work? And you might not know what they are. So you could send it to people who are in that field of work. Could be mentors, professors, friends. And then they might be like, hey, did you know that this and this job exists? Oh, really? Like I had a student the other day saying, I'm interested in business, but also kind of in human rights. And I couldn't combine it until one of your advisors said, did you know there's this field of corporate social responsibility? And now this person's like, whoa, I discovered this whole new field where I can combine both of those. And that's the step. And then the third step would be then after you have the list of the jobs is to say, who are people who have those jobs? And that's where LinkedIn is amazing, because you can basically type in a field or you can check out your connections and then ask them for what we call an informational interview to make sure, like you said, is it really as I imagine it, or is it maybe completely different? And then based on that, you get a bit of more accurate picture of maybe where you want to go.
And people are willing to do these informal interviews? Are they not busy enough?
Yes. No, I think it's the question of how if you go in like, here's my job application and I'm desperate for a job, people go, oh my gosh, no. But
please don't come.
But if someone comes to you, Bastian, in 5 years and says, look, Bastian, I think you have my dream job, but I'm not sure. I have a couple of questions that I have prepared that I'd love to ask you because I feel I'm at the crossroads right now in my career. Would you be able to help? Or, in the next 2 weeks, do you have 10 minutes for me or 15 minutes? And most people will say yes. Yeah, most people will say yes.
I think, for students, but particularly in young professionals, I think making this list really helps. But they feel kind of lost in, the question of what is my life passion? But you kind of told me before, or you basically had goosebumps on your arms. That's what you said. So that was the time you found out that you're on the right track. How do students or young professionals know that they're on the right track?
Okay, now, of course, we say that you do want to see what is your purpose in life. And that's a big question. Like I was talking to one of my daughters the other day and she was thinking about this business idea. She's 12, okay? And then at one point she said, Mom, I want to earn enough money. And so when I said, no, I'd rather you ask yourself what you want to change in the world. And then she said to me, but Mom, when you say that, it feels so like I can't change the world. And then I realized, wow, okay, maybe if you have to break it down because it can seem so overwhelming. But what I was trying to say is, discover your purpose. And the best way to discover your purpose is to follow your passions. And so if you want to write down, if you're a listener who likes writing down, one of my favorite sentences is, passion leads to purpose. So don't go chasing your purpose because that will unfold itself in the journey. So same thing with you, Bastian. Look, it's a Sunday, okay? And you're interviewing me. Okay, so you could be doing hosting. Yeah, sorry, but you could be doing so many other things on a Sunday, right? And because this also is work, but it probably doesn't feel like work to you because you're following a passion. And if you keep looking, but what is my purpose behind it? I don't know. What would you say, Bastian? What purpose is behind your passion?
That's a question I'm trying to figure out myself sometimes. No, but with this show, it's for sure. I want to help students. I want to help young professionals. I've, in my career, been going through, which has been very short. I mean, I've been in my career with putting the traineeships and everything aside, like full work time career, just a little bit more than a year. And it has been tough. It has been challenging. I felt like studies didn't prepare me at all for the working life. And I've gotten into a job and a consulting job where I was completely overwhelmed by the environment. I had performance pressure. I couldn't perform because of that. And then I switched jobs to a job where it was more my previous boss who, had some issues, so I needed to change again. And now I finally feel like I'm in a place where my colleagues are great. I like the topics that I'm doing. I'm still asking myself the question: is this really the job I want to do for the rest of my life? Like, do I want to be a policy advisor full time? That's something I definitely ask myself. But yeah, because of all these challenges, all these hardships, and all these kind of things that I've discovered about myself, I looked online and I thought, well, what are the things that might help people? What might help students and young professionals as well? And I came up with this live show because I like doing podcasts. I have another podcast with a friend of mine. And I really like the platform LinkedIn because you can really connect to people. And despite being more of an introvert, I still like this kind of exchange. So I thought I combine these two things and bring them together to this show. And, it kind of, even though it is something that I do on the weekend or on the side, as you said, getting it to flow is very easy with this kind of work because I can control it. I can control the quality. I know that I started out, for example, with the show with a podcast version, which was just, I took this audio file and uploaded it. But then I realized, no, this is not enough. I need to really edit this. I need to put an intro in it and make it a bit more podcasty and really go through each and everything, each and every little detail to ensure that it sounds like a podcast as well. In a live show like this, it's fine if there's some M's or if there's some pauses or if there's a connection loss or whatever. But in the podcast, you can't leave that as an audio. So I really can control it. I can put in my own work, and I can manage it. And that's, I think, the most important thing. I can fix it, or I can align it to my own schedule. And that's something I've been trying to figure out. And that's why I'm, what you said with going into the entrepreneurship side is kind of interesting, because there it's really about managing your own time. You can align your schedule, what you put priority on. And that is, I think, what I really enjoy about this kind of work. I mean, it's now on top of work. It's not really work for me, but yeah. That's, I think, what really keeps me going with Flying Colors, and that's what I really enjoy. And I can have great conversations with people like you. I mean, Mona, that's fantastic. It's nice. I love it.
Well, so I'm listening to what you're saying, and so if we want to, keep the viewership kind of in mind, is what Bastian did is he didn't give up. He said, he was in a place in a consultancy where he wasn't really happy, and he realized it's not his. Then he switched, and he realized, no, it's important for me also to have good working relationships with my colleagues. And now you're in a place where you say, I'm closer. So you keep getting closer to feeling comfortable. But then when you speak about, flying colors, your whole body language changes. You've got this sparkle in your eyes, you're passionate, you speak with more energy, it flows, and I can also sense how you want to make it good. And this is it. When you're passionate about something, you want to improve the quality, and you get ambitious. And then automatically, when you do that, you get better. And the better you get, the more successful you get at it. And without really any effort, it's just because you're so interested in what you do and you want to make it even better as that development. And if you're in a job that's just a job for you, you'll just do whatever you have to do. And then at 5 o'clock, you'll leave. You might not put that extra mile. And that's why passion is an overused word. But still, let's call it motivation, drive, intrinsic drive, whatever you want to call it. But it's that energy that makes you want to go that extra mile.
And that's how it was for you with Key to Advance as well, right? I mean, how did it start? And I mean, now what you're doing, you do tons of things, but it didn't start that way, of course. So did you also have this intrinsic kind of motivation to really just do it better, to have bigger, better, and what more successful?
Bigger, better, larger, faster.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not like that, but going into that direction.
It's funny because I think I'm not this big strategist, which now is, I guess I'm reaching a stage where I'm like, okay, Mona, maybe you need to develop a strategy, but it kind of just all happened. So basically it was, I think when you do something and you do it well, other people start to recognize that, and then there's this energy that, or this dynamism that is created. So our university, Brussels School of International Studies, where I did my master's, which is basically a spin-off from University of Canterbury in the UK, they started mentioning that they were offering career services to their students to another university in the building, you know. And then someone else moved to another university and said, oh, they're offering career services. So it's basically by doing good work, colleagues would start telling each other, and which made us reach a stage where now we have 10 European universities working with us. Also, they see our activities and so on. So that was growing. And then I realized that my skills, my resources, my competencies were not enough anymore. And I would step by step, for every client, for every new workshop, start asking people, hey, do you want to give a workshop to students on migration? Hey, do you want to give a workshop on how to enter NATO? Because I don't have all those answers. I only knew the basic career toolkit and maybe a couple of European institutions, but I would always listen to, what does the market want? What do the students need? And if I couldn't fulfill that need, I would get someone else who could. So now we have 14 career advisors, and they're not all full-time at Key to Advance. That's not the model we have. So one would be working at Amnesty International, another one is leading an NGO, someone else is working for the United Nations, and on the side, they help students and give workshops and so on. On the other, with workshops, I think it's when you do something and you hopefully do a good job, people will remember, and with that you plant a seed, and then they talk to someone else, and they move to another organization, and they basically take you with them. And so I would say the way that Key to Advance, it grew quite organically, but I did not have the resources to fulfill all those demands. So I'm so happy that we have right now about 25 people on the website, but maybe active like 17. Each one has a different skill set. And yeah, we all grow together. So, I mean, basically Key to Advance is not me anymore. It's a community of contributors. And that's, I think, one of the most beautiful moments for me is when, someone who's working at Key to Advance or with Key to Advance would say we or us or, we at Key to Advance. And that just makes me so incredibly happy because I realize how, we've really built a community of people with shared values. Yeah.
So you would really say it pays off if you're really passionate, if people can see that you're in the flow, that you really love what you're doing, that will really pays off. That's what you're saying, right?
Plus one more ingredient, and that's, I would say, the two core values at Key to Advance too, is come with it for the right reasons. Like you need to be interested in self-development, care about other people becoming successful, and get happy. Like if someone gets a job, we get excited. Like we celebrate as if we were the ones who just got this job. And that means, the values are in the right place. But the second important thing, passion is not enough. You need to be professional too. So, and that's something we keep talking, like accountable, be punctual, reliable, make sure that when you promise something, you can deliver. Make sure that if you have a workshop and you're saying it's the latest research, that it's actually the latest research. So it's the combination of, doing it for the right reasons, but also doing it in a way that people can rely on you. And that's how you build trust. There's a nice ingredient for a formula for trust. And they say that, this is if people like writing down, this is another one of our little wisdoms that we discovered. So trust is the combination of competency, then intention, also. So competency is, can I trust you? Do you know what you're talking about? Because that's important. So passion is not enough, right? The second one is intention. So meaning, are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it because you really care about what you're doing? And then the third one is the professionalism. So how much can I rely on you? And if you have all of those three, it's kind of like the magical formula for trust. And I like that definition because it makes sense. Makes sense to me and to us in our work.
For someone who has basically now listened to this or viewed it, at the time when you started Key to Advance, that you basically have found, okay, this is what I want to do. Was it scary though to kind of take that step and say, okay, I'm going to start my own company?
Well, it wasn't like you started your own company, I just basically registered as someone who's self-employed in Belgium, personne physique. And it was, in Belgium, the threshold was quite low. But I remember that first call, I was like, oh, I think I need like a tax advisor. So someone told me, yeah, you need to surround yourself by people who have made similar decisions and who are maybe a couple of years ahead. So I said, oh, then can you connect me to your tax consultant? And I remember sitting in this coffee shop in Brussels, and then this lady came in with her papers, and I was like, oh gosh, freaking out with like all the things I need to sign. But then I thought, okay, the threshold's not that high. I just have to pay 75 euros to register Key to Advance. I need to do a couple of things, and every 3 months I need to bring her my bills, and then she fills out my form. Okay, that's not too bad. Need to pay health insurance, social insurance. Okay, and then you can go. So I would say, yes, it's fear of the unknown, but you can work with that by getting information, asking people, okay, what is it that I actually need to do? So sometimes people think, oh my gosh, being self-employed is this huge step. You do need to step out of your comfort zone. You do need to, believe in what you do. And like I said, I always had support. Like I had this backing, knowing that, I wouldn't be homeless. So I would always have someone where I could go, or my family that I could go back to in worst case scenario. So I wasn't like at the, it wasn't a question of survival, life or death. But yeah, of course, it's a bit of anxiety, but not to the extent that it paralyzes you. That no, to the contrary, it pushes you forward to say, okay, and how can I manage that now? But I think otherwise, luckily never felt really scared going ahead, because then you get confirmation. If you do a good job, you get feedback, and that feedback loop strengthens you and strengthens your confidence that you're going in the right direction. So.
It reminds me a bit of a book that I read. It's an old book. Maybe people know it, but it's called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways." Kind of.
Yeah,
I think.
lovely.
I think it's always like that. There's a certain uncertainty. People have some. When you start something out, you feel fear. You're a bit scared of what might happen. But in the end, if you feel that and you do it nonetheless, you just put in your best. If you're really passionate about it, motivated about it, then well, I don't want to say it works out, but you've given your best, and that's something. Not giving your best is actually something you should fear, I think.
Sebastian, two points here. So sure. What you're saying with the book, by the way, you need to send that title to me, because I like it.
Sure.
Is to say that when you want to grow, you have like 3 circles, so to say. You have your comfort zone, then you have your stretch zone, which also in German is called the learning zone. And then the third one is the panic zone. Okay, so you want to basically always check in with yourself. It's lovely to be in the comfort zone. Like I think next week I'm giving workshops that are totally in my comfort zone. Last week I was in my stretch zone, and I think maybe I hit for like half an hour the panic zone at one point. But it's good if you can start thinking like that, and to go, no, if I want to grow, keep putting yourself in the stretch zone every once in a while. And then the stretch zone becomes the comfort zone. So, a workshop that would make my heart, beat a bit faster 14 years ago, if you wake me up in the middle of the night now, I would be able to give it without having to prepare more than like 10 seconds, right? So I think this concept of comfort zone, stretch zone, panic zone is one. The other one is ask for feedback. So don't just go in your own bubble and think, oh yeah, I feel passionate about this, I think I'm good at this, but nobody's giving you any feedback. So that's another essential element, because sometimes we get so involved in our own little ideas that we could lose connection to reality. And I've seen this happen with some clients of mine who also wanted to, embark into self-employment, for example, or do something. So ask people, hey, how did I do it? What would you advise me? What do you see as strengths in me? So depends how good you are at self-reflection, but some people need that, everyone needs feedback, but some maybe a bit more than others. So I wouldn't shy away from that.
That's a fantastic point, and a good point to bring it in. If any one of the viewers or listeners has feedback, please send it to me. And if you have feedback, Mona, actually let me know after the show. I would always love to hear it.
That's how we grow.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we grow. And I think it's quite essential to get feedback, because that's how you can see where you can improve, or what you do well, what you don't do well. Well, this might be something more interesting for someone who is a bit more advanced in their careers, but I have the feeling and that's, I guess, a bit more of a personal question as well, but if you're in the flow the whole time, really putting your passion into the project you're doing, let it be Key to Advance with as your company, what are the challenges there sometimes? Like, I can imagine that it takes up so much of your life, let's say, that it might interfere with other parts of your life. And I wonder how you manage it, or what challenges you face in that regard anyways. But
it's a good point. I would say maybe anyone who's self-employed and maybe has a similar setup to ours, it's like saying no is very hard. And but I've kind of turned it around and I said, if someone comes to me as a client and says, Mona, can you, I don't know, do X, Y, Z the day after tomorrow? Okay, that maybe not be realistic, but if they say, you know, in the near future, we need this and this, I will probably, if I feel it's in our field of competency, I will say yes. And then I'll figure it out. Okay, so then we need to get to maybe collaborate with someone external, ask someone on the team who wants to help. So I think it's a weakness and a strength at the same time. I think had I said no to everything, that would have stretched me. We wouldn't be 25 people working with, you know, so many different clients in so many different sectors. So it's definitely also a way to grow. But still, nevertheless, wherever there is light, there is shadow. Sometimes I do wonder, I say, okay, Mona, did I need to take like 5 jobs in 1 week? Or, you know, couldn't it have just been also 4? Or couldn't I have like maybe pushed that back a little bit? So I would say that's definitely one of the biggest challenges, like when to say no, how to say no, where to put have certain expectations and limitations. In my case, it helped to have a family and have children because, you know, when they come home, they want your attention. And so I would say make sure that you also develop the things aside from work in your life, and whether it's interests, friendships, family, whatever it is, to make sure that there is a balance so that you don't think, you know, this is all of my work. It's definitely a big chunk. And I would say that everyone I work with is someone that I would also go on holiday with. Like we really love spending time together. And that's why it doesn't always feel like work. So if I'm, you know, still preparing a workshop at midnight with a colleague, it's actually like chatting to a friend. And so it makes it much more pleasurable. But nevertheless, is make sure you've got a good balance in there. Yeah.
Something I talked about with the previous guest, like having different compartments basically in life to, well, we called it at that show complex identity, right? You have different compartments in life, like family, yes, friends, work, and you really, I mean, there's always, I think, a slight focus or tendency to, you know, lean towards, I don't know, being more focused on family or being more focused on your job, but it should be a healthy balance, as you said, between those things, so that if something happens in one of those compartments, it's not like someone pulls the rack underneath your feet away.
It's funny, Pasi, that you say this, because I think one of my favorite classes at McGill in Canada was by a social psychology professor. He would come with a parrot on his shoulder, like he was reading. A professor. I think he was the most interesting professor ever. But I think he taught the concept back then. It was simple interdependence and complex interdependence, is what you're saying. So meaning, if you take, you know, if your life is basically like a piece of pizza or like a big one, and then you had to slice it up, the more slices there are, you know, if someone eats a piece or if one piece, you know, you've got all the rest still there. And I think it comes from also, I think the examples that were given where, you know, if your whole life have just focused on your partner, and this is maybe in the generation of my grandmother, and suddenly the partner is gone, that's it, your life is nothing else aside from that. And that was, I think that's where it went, but you can apply it also to, to young people who, to encourage them to make sure that there's enough diversity in there. Different sources of energy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Did it come to you naturally, or did you also had a time, or maybe you're still in that time where you consciously try to build up that compartment?
Good point. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started getting more interested in the topic of resilience. And I think one of your last interviews was about that, like burnout and resilience and so on, burnout prevention, is to say what actually makes people more resilient than others. And now I've just finished a certification on this. And I think we had a chat about this last week, and I thought that was quite interesting. And it says, that's why it's not a one size fits all. It's to say some people by nature are a bit more resilient. It's like the raw resilience they bring with them. It has to do with your personality preferences, how optimistic you are, how creative you are, how extrovert you are, how much need for stability you have, right? So those are all factors that play. But then on top of the natural, what you bring from home, so to say, is also what habits you have. So people need to check their habits. You know, are you someone who watches their energy management? Do you build in exercise? Do you build in meditation? How are you with sleep and nutrition? So that's that. And then there's a third component, which is outside of your control, which could be things like the pandemic or financial insecurity, or someone in your family has, passed away or is sick, or you've lost your job. So it's really hard to say, this is how it should be, but for people to be aware that resilience is linked to these three dimensions: your personality, your habits, and which life situation you're in. And that affects also the decisions you make.
I think that's a very good point again. Some things come naturally, but on other things you really need to put intention in order to allow yourself, kind of to counterbalance what naturally you possess compared to the things that you artificially kind of need to put on top of that.
So, for example, people who are very tough on themselves, like the Chuck Norris type, so to say, they've got amazing discipline. They've got a lot of self-discipline, but maybe they don't listen to themselves very well. So they would need to build in time to say, okay, I need to reflect. I need to check in with myself, see how am I doing? What does my body need? What does my soul need? Other people, they know exactly what they need, but they just don't do it. So I know I need to sleep more. I know I need to exercise more. I know I need to go look for a job, but I don't do it. So they would need more advice or coaching on the self-discipline side. So how do I build that in, whether it's with a coach, whether it's with an app, whether it's with a friend, or like a schedule I make for myself. So that's why, some need to just feel themselves more because they're quite disciplined already. And others, they feel what they need, but they lack the discipline. So I think it's a kind of a nice way of looking at it. And you out there, listeners, know which category you belong to or what preferences you have.
Do you know which category you belong to?
I think it's, there's some other ones too. So
for sure, yeah.
Resilience. So if you have a good self-discipline and you feel yourself, but I think, yes, I do. I think I sometimes go to the Chuck Norris. I'm tough on myself. And it's like, why do I have a headache? And why am I feeling tired? I should be powering through. Or sometimes, okay, I know I should sleep more. I should exercise more. And so I think like I can go to both. But generally speaking, I would consider myself in the resilient category.
I see. Okay.
But also natural. So
I think
to the personality.
What you did in the leadership workshop where I met you, there are different colors, right, for personality types, and no one is really 100% red, so an extrovert, or no one is 100% what is it, green? Is that right, introvert?
There was like, it's the insights model. So it was, I think, red and yellow extrovert, green and blue introvert. And then you have a thinking preference and a feeling preference. And then it gives the 4 different types. Yeah. And we all have everything inside us. We just have preferences.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you were going to ask a question.
I want to say, like, you basically naturally shifting in between these two, and it depends on the situation. But I understand that the Chuck Norris type you mentioned before, I think I belong more to that category. I'm very disciplined, and because of my habits and routines, it works just fine. But feeling, myself, listening to myself is quite difficult.
Maybe you want to schedule, since you're disciplined, what you could do is start a mindfulness app, for example, where you say calm or waking up, or sanctuary app. I think someone told me the other day, where it's just like 5 to 10 minutes a day where you can just, feel yourself and go, what am I noticing? What are my needs? So maybe that's something you can build in.
Mm-hmm. This also might be a question, and that leads a bit to a different category, I guess, of our talk. But how is it to actually manage, or not manage, but work in a team of 14 people? I mean, Key to Advance is there, but you definitely have the other coaches who are with you. One of them has her birthday today, Martine.
Yes.
Happy birthday. If she's listening or is seeing this. But what kind of difficulties did you face? Any difficulties? Did you face any challenges when you first started out to say, okay, I'm actually going to work with other people together and I kind of need to coordinate here? Or was it really just you were all independent individuals who came together?
Oh, it's really organic. It would be, okay, now we need this. Let me see who in my network I can reach out to. And that's how they all came in. And And I would say that we all share this mentality of being quite open to new people. And you've met some of the Keto Advanced contributors. So, we're very open towards others who have similar passions, because we all know that's where we started also. What are the difficulties? I think two things. One, I realized, and this is really, like you said, drifting a little bit off into a separate section, talking more about, how is it to manage people, and is to make sure that you get someone with the right values in there. So thanks to Martin, who has been in our team for like 1.5 years now, and he really brought this topic of values and visions and how important it is. And we had maybe unconscious values, so we felt them, but we couldn't verbalize them. Now we can verbalize them, and when someone new comes and is interested to work with us, we really check them based on these values, because we've had experiences that people were super professional, but they weren't really passionate about what they were doing, or they weren't doing it for the right reasons, in our opinion. And then we felt it, and then we went, ooh, okay, this isn't right, and we found a way to part, gracefully with each other. So that's one challenge, is like, who do you let in? And you want to give everyone a chance. Like, we're very diverse. We have people from, all the way from India to Canada, with different backgrounds. So we do appreciate diversity, but not only in ethnicity and background, but also in skill set and way of thinking. So I would say, even if we have common values, we're quite diverse. And that's how you build a successful team too. Like, I don't need 25 Monas. That would be too much. And then on the other hand, is I do sometimes reach where I say I cannot coordinate so many people. So we've created like subgroups, but naturally. So if there's like a certain project, Martine would take the lead, or Marta would take the lead, or Martin would take the lead. And that's just beautiful to see. But I think everyone who manages needs to at one point realize, okay, where is it efficient, and where is being a bottleneck not efficient, and to let people work on their own, and be as empowered and as independent as possible.
I realize I might have mispronounced Martine's name, so the happy birthday wishes go to Martine.
I say Martine, sure. But she's half Spanish, so I would call her Martina. So sometimes it's a bit confusing. But yeah, we're celebrating today at 6. So
yeah, just a side note there. What would you actually give as a suggestion to students and probably young professionals? General life advice. What would you give? Maybe we can separate them if you want to students and young professionals, between those two. But I always like to end with these kind of broad questions, as they're a bit more difficult to answer.
So one fun thing that we sometimes, as an analogy, I would say, would you marry someone who's just okay?
Probably not.
And most people will say, no, I want to be like, wow, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. If it turns out like that or not is another story, but you want to come in with that kind of. So I say, why do you do that for jobs? Why do you say, it's a job, but it's kind of okay? No, like, be ambitious, set the standard high for yourself. So I think that's one advice I would give. It's like a lifelong partnership, right? And there's this concept of path determinants, meaning if you go in one direction, it's much harder the longer you go ahead that path to come back to the cross section and change. So if you're young at your beginning of your career, like, already set the standard where you say, no, I do want to like what I'm doing. And that's one thing. The other is self-reflect, understand what is it really that I'm missing in this job, identify your needs, and make sure you get those needs met. So if you can get those needs met in your current work environment, great. If you realize I've communicated my needs, I've talked to people, and I can't get those met, then you need to look for something else. Be the creator of your own destiny, and don't go into a passive mode where things happen to you. And in psychology, we say there's the external versus the internal locus of control. So if you find yourself saying others are more lucky, or it's the economy, or, if so-and-so, then I would be in a better situation, watch for your language, and realize, no, what can I do? What can I do to take control over certain decisions? What can I do to communicate my needs? What can I do in my free time, like you, Bastian, to follow my needs that I cannot maybe get met in my current job? And so, just to encourage people to be the shapers of their own happiness, so to say, or destiny, as much as possible, of course.
That actually brought another question to mind. Did you have any coach or mentor in your life that helped you find these things? Because for me, you definitely helped me with that, with the dream job compass. I had a couple of other people who helped me here and there who were more advanced in the career. Did you have anyone?
Not one particular, but since you, like I mentioned, people who believe in you. So first of all, I would definitely say my parents were maybe my first coaches, and I would wish for everyone who's listening out there to be able to say that. And I think one thing that I really appreciated now when I look back, and I was just thinking about this yesterday, I think my parents never said to me, you can't do this. They never said, oh, are you sure? Oh, but other coaches are much older, or no, you're too young, get a proper job first. They never said that. So I would say someone who, I'm really grateful that I've been blessed with parents who didn't instill self-doubt, but basically encouraged my autonomy. If you don't have that, if you don't have parents, and it's not because they have bad intentions, it's they want to protect you. Most parents do things because they think it's the right thing for you. And then you need to find someone in the outside who compensates. So if you realize that your parents or someone who's very close to you is not a source of inspiration and not a source of, wanting to push you forward, not out of bad intentions, but just because maybe they can't give that to you, then definitely look for someone on the outside. It could be a relative, it could be a friend, it could be a teacher, it could be a mentor. And then professionally, I think whenever you do a coaching training, you need to be a client most of the time. So of course, I went through a lot of self-reflection there too. So throughout all my training sessions, and I think every 1 or 2 years, I go through another training round. So now I just did resilience. Before that, I did systemic coaching, where you also have to always go back and reflect on your patterns, your wishes, your needs. But yeah, it's a lifelong journey. But yeah, hope that answers the question.
It does. Thanks so much, Mona. I really appreciate that you were with me on Flying Colors. For everyone who has viewed or listened to this, feel free to check out Keto Advanced. I think they're a fantastic company. You can see Mona is definitely very approachable, very open-minded, and would probably love to work with you as well. So definitely check out Keto Advanced. Other than that, follow Flying Colors, of course, would be always appreciated. You can find Flying Colors on YouTube, LinkedIn, of course, and as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as on Spotify. Thanks so much, Mona. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, and keep up the good work. And yes, I really enjoyed this and wish for everyone to find their true potential and to be able to say that it's like flying colors, right? We didn't talk about what's behind the logo, but you can tell me once we're off.
Sure. Thank you.